Hello, and welcome to the third of today's Women in IT panel presentation, Getting Girls Interested in Technology, with student panelists and moderated by an IBM Z Systems academic program manager. My name is Andrea Zobens, and on behalf of SHARE, I would like to thank you for joining us today. I would like to now turn the webcast over to Misty and our panelists.
Thank you so much, Bristol. I am so excited to be here today. After weeks of practicing this session for you all with this crazy times, and we are well prepared to talk to you about how to get girls interested in technology. And I want to make something very clear today. And that is, let me introduce our panelists. You all may know me. I'm Misty Decker, and I lead Master the Mainframe, and I have been working in academic outreach programs with IBM for, I think it's 10 years now. I don't know. I've been a mainframer for 29 years, and this conversation is the intersection of a lot of things that I really care about. It's mainframes, it's reaching students, and it's helping girls find their career paths and find their future. So I want to introduce my special co-presenters who are going to be able to tell you how these tips that I'll talk you through actually impacted their lives and are reflected in their lives. And so we have Lella, and we have Chloe, and we have Kaitlyn. So Lella, do you want to give us a quick introduction to who you are?
Sure. So I'm Lella. I'm 16 years old. I'm based in North Yorkshire in England. I've been working with IBM over the past 6 months to put together the IBM Z Global Student Hub, in which we launched an amazing webinar series, which has really helped enable students to get access to real-time technology, which is a major passion of mine. So I look forward to telling you more about that today.
Great. And Chloe, introduce yourself, please.
Hello everyone, my name is Chloe Allen. I'm just going into my final year of my physics degree at University of Wolverhampton in the UK. Like Lella, I'm a Z ambassador and a student hub centre. I love all things mainframe and all things tech.
Great. And Kaitlyn, tell us a little bit about you. You're on mute. I got you.
I'm 18 years old. I'm a freshman in college in my first year of working towards a computer science degree. And I'm one of the North American regional winners for Master the Mainframe 2019.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is how I met her.
That is true, yeah.
That's great. You know what, before we dive into this, I want to set a few ground rules for this conversation. So the first thing is we're not doing this and having this conversation with you today as passing interest. We'd really like you to do more than listen today. We want you to listen with an ear towards what you can personally do to help get more women in IT. We're not going to spend a lot of time talking about whether or not women should be in IT, because if you join this session, we're assuming that you do care and that you do believe that and that there is a problem to be solved here. So we're really going to focus on actions that anyone can do, from small little things to big things. And we also want to point out that our actions here are based on the scientific research of what actually works with girls, and we're going to translate that into actual things that you can do, move it from theory to reality. But remember that we're dealing with generalities in that research, that what works with most girls, but not all girls are the same. So not all people are the same, not all girls are the same. So some of these things may not apply to certain girls. And the other thing that we want to point out is a lot of this research was focused on how to get girls into IT, but as we went through this, we realized that a lot of these tips would apply very easily to any other underrepresented community. A lot of these tips are helping people realize that this could be for them. So any group of students that may feel excluded from the world of IT, these tips will work for them as well. So keeping those ground rules in mind, especially the look for something to do that you can do. The first tip is that girls first begin to see themselves as someone who is not technical around ages 10 to 14. So that's middle school here in the United States. So the research has found that if we don't get to them in middle school, the vast majority of girls are already lost. They already see themselves as someone who can't do computers, can't do tech. And so a lot of these programs that we build really are focused on high school, college, and women starting their careers. And that is important, but we cannot lose sight of these younger girls. And so the tips that we came up with are start a girls only tech club. High school is great, but there's also middle school for sure. Middle school is peak hormones. So this is when girls and boys mixing is a little bit problematic. They are uncomfortable around each other in middle school. So maybe have some girls only activities. It's not as important in high school and college, but it's definitely important in middle school. And really try to focus on that public recognition in front of their peers, because that makes girls feel like they're not the only one, that they're one of many, and that there are other girls like them that are into this. So Lella, and talk a little bit about girls only clubs and playing with tech at home.
Yeah, so from a very young age, I've been extremely passionate for technology, and my parents have really created a real can-do environment for me. I've never seen anything as out of bounds, and I've really kind of pursued my interest based on what I truly want to do. So I was really lucky to have the opportunity to sit my GCSE in ICT just 5 years before all of my peers, because I really had that drive and determination and was so keen to really show, like, use my skills to the best of their advantage. When I moved back to the UK after living in Dubai, I had school to bring computer science as a whole to the table, because we were an all-girls school, and I don't think the teachers were as aware of the major opportunities that it could bring. So alongside bringing the school curriculum to the table, we also worked on a girls-only, well, kind of inevitable being an all-girls school, but a tech club which really looked at, as we'll discuss later, putting purpose behind tech skills and showing people what tech beyond the textbooks really looks like.
That's great. And Kaitlyn, you talked a little bit about the importance of getting into Minecraft and playing with Minecraft servers when you were at this age. Tell us a little bit about what that was.
Yeah, so the whole reason I got into computer science in the first place was actually because I just really liked playing video games. I kind of grew up with them, like starting at like some point in elementary school. I can't remember how old I was, but I convinced my parents to get a Wii. But then eventually I ended up getting into Minecraft, and I wanted to play with my friends. So then I looked up how I would make a server, and then it just sort of like snowballed from there.
Right.
So it just started out as like, hey, I want to do this thing so I can like play some games with my friends and have some fun. And then I just ended up really liking making servers. So I ended up making like dozens of them. And Minecraft servers are pretty simple to make, but
still, it's empowering, right?
Yeah, it's like, it was just like really fun and satisfying. So it was just super easy for me to like get really into that. And then over time, I was like, oh, I want to make a server that's a little bit more complex. And then I was like, oh, you know what? I should try programming. And then it just kind of kept going more and more from there. And then now I'm studying computer science in college, so...
So you know what's really interesting about this is that I hear this story from students over and over about how an interest in gaming is what led them down the path to computer science. So for all of our listeners, I think that's really an important point. And something else that really jumped out at me when we talked about this topic and this tip was that none of these girls really saw what they did in middle school as formative until we really had that conversation. It kind of snuck up on them, right? It kind of started them on the path of feeling like this was something they could do, but they didn't see it as that moment. So engaging with students in middle school with gaming, with some of these club activities is formative, and they just may not realize it. So you guys can post questions to our speakers. I just want to point that out as we go through here. But I want to make sure we go through all 9 tips. So let's move on to the next one. Alrighty. So especially in girls, but I think in anyone, but especially in girls, when you say nothing, she hears I'm bad. It becomes her self-doubt. So it's really important to say those positive thoughts as you see them. And when we discussed this, we really realized it's important to say something, but it's also important what you say, because there are subtext messages included in what you say. So you're good at this for a girl. Says, girls aren't usually good at this, and that makes her feel like a weirdo, all right? Especially if you're talking to those middle school girls, again, they don't want to stand out, they don't want to be weirdos. But at any age, that's really not a compliment. It's a much more complimentary thing to say, you're really good at this, period. And it's even better to be really specific about why she's really good at this. That's a great way to solve that problem. I never would have thought to code it that way, right? Those specific compliments really land very, very strongly. So Kaitlyn, we're going to go back to you. Talk a little bit about the confidence building that came from Master the Mainframe, even that support from those other students and those comments that were sent back and forth.
So with Master the Mainframe, for me, it was a school assignment. So I was super lucky to have a really good programming teacher. I was the only girl in that class, but all the guys were super cool, and everyone in that class would just kind of like talk and hang out as we like worked through Master the Mainframe and help each other out, do things like that. And it was, I ended up working a lot further ahead than a lot of the other students. So my programming teacher ended up encouraging me to just go all the way and finish it, which I was already planning on doing because I really wanted the t-shirt, which I'm wearing right now.
Nice shirt.
But I didn't think I could win. I thought, oh, maybe if I get insanely lucky, or if I just like somehow figure it out more than, because it was my first time working with any mainframe stuff. So I was like, if I can just somehow figure it out, or if I somehow guess what I'm supposed to do correctly for this last section, then maybe I'll get it. And I just like, I just had so much encouragement and stuff along the way, and it made me feel like, oh, hey, maybe I will win. I still thought, oh, probably not, because it's pretty big. Like, it's a big competition. But then I ended up finding out that I won, and I was like, oh. And I ended up doing like, you know, the normal little victory dance and all that kind of stuff, a lap just running around the house because I was in high school at the time. I just graduated, so this is, again, my freshman year of college. But
so I mean, so it sounds like there was a lot of confidence building and comments that you got from your peers that really helps with that.
Yeah, that was probably the biggest thing, especially from like other guys my age, because there were a few who were like I just saw them as being a lot better at programming than me, especially because they've been doing it for way longer. And then I ended up finishing Master the Mainframe while a lot of them like
wimped out,
either didn't try,
wimped out,
tried but didn't manage it, or just like.
And the role of that teacher sounds like it was really important too.
It was super important.
But you know, I
sorry,
wanted to,
the lights.
That's okay. Well, I want to ask Chloe a question, if I may. Chloe, you and Lella have been doing this over the summer, this whole webinar series, and engaging with the Student Hub, with students supporting students. Talk a little bit about the encouraging words that you guys give each other and how much that means.
Yeah, so it's been really great having, firstly, the encouragement from IBM and Angel Hack to let us go forward and make these student-led webinars. Just seeing the support actually from industry and that they do want to hear the voice of the students, and getting us involved was really encouraging, and it kind of spurred us on. And then as well, the feedback we were getting from the students afterwards and seeing how much they learned and how much they were able to sort of help each other, and just getting through this whole learning experience together was really valuable and really motivating as well to ourselves. And I think a lot of people, we reached 1.5k students, and to know that we might have had an impact on quite a few of them is really great.
Right. I mean, your leadership, your demonstration made an impact on them, and that community of them supporting each other is so important. All right, let's jump to the next tip, because I'm watching the clock. I want to make sure I'm being told, I'm chatting. I'm being told that we can go until 15 after the hour, but I still want to make sure we have time to go through. Hey, what happened to my charts? There we go. That we have time to go through everything. And I want to share the chart again. There we go. So number 3. Is it dropping on me? There we go. Are we at, is this 3? Yes, 3s. Girls are motivated by purpose. So this was a really interesting research study that I saw that found you could throw a robot on a table in front of a group of boys, and they're like, oh, cool, a robot. What can I make it do? And they start making it do karate chops and all sorts of stupid stuff. Girls were like, it's a robot. It's okay. But when you gave them a mission, right? Let's figure out how to make this robot pick up a pill that a senior citizen has dropped, something that has a purpose or a mission. Then they really dig into learning the technology. So again, this is a generalization. Not all girls are like that. A lot of girls just like the technology. But if you want to reach the broadest stretch of girls, don't talk about the technology. Talk about the mission. Talk about the purpose. So this is where choosing real world activities comes in. One of my personal pet peeves, because I really don't think it works, is pinking up an activity that was created for boys. So just basically taking the exact same superhero activity and making it My Little Pony, and suddenly girls are going to like it. Not really. But when you have something that is real, that's a purpose, they're going to be much more interested. And it's really good when you can pair technology with the student interests. So you want to get girls that are into art to join technology. Come up with an art project that uses computer programming, right? You want to get girls that are into athletics to join programming. Come up with a way of measuring athletes' speeds or doing analytics, right? Find a way to pair the technology with their interests. So let's go back to Kaitlyn. Oh, we already talked to Kaitlyn about her Minecraft server. So Chloe, let's talk about some of the stuff you're doing with Code the Curve and the Beirut project. Oh yeah, we got to talk about that.
That's me.
Oh, that's you, Lella. I have it written next to the wrong name. So Lella.
Yeah, so I think something which I really discovered and think is so important, a lot more girls and just underrepresented communities in general, if not anyone interested in tech discover, are the power of hackathons, right? I think once you ditch the jargon and the kind of scary term of a hackathon, you'll realize just how welcoming they are to all kinds of people. When we worked on Code the Curve, there's so many terms, we really called for hackers, hustlers, hipsters and humanitarians, and I think that just works so much better than developers, because I think that anyone on this call will be able to quickly categorize themselves into one of the other terms mentioned and not think it as like kind of scary as being considered a developer. So with Code the Curve, it really allowed me to put purpose behind my skills. I'd always been really quite interested in tech for good, and alongside my interest in tech, I'm extremely passionate for like politics and current affairs. So being able to work on a solution that helps fight real world problems has been extremely useful. And for those of you who don't know me very well, I'm actually half Lebanese, and because of, as you've probably seen in the news, the catastrophic explosion that happened there about a month ago now, I actually worked with IBM to put together the Call for Code Spot Challenge, which is happening right now. So go and sign up, a quick promo. And that really has been such an amazing opportunity, because it's allowed me to put, again, something which really is meaningful and close to my heart together and solve it with the power of technology. So I think that regardless of your interest, regardless of your educational background, I think that technology and hackathons and such opportunities are so important, and I think schools and things should look at ways of really bringing that purpose and real world opportunities into the classroom. So I mentioned before, at my tech club, we even built an app with a local supermarket to help fight homeless people not having any food on the evenings, and they use like the food waste that was probably not going to be sold that day to help feed the homeless people and donate them to local food banks. So that's just another example of the power of tech for good and why everyone needs to get involved.
That's great points. And for those of you that are looking for something you can do, is subscribe and pay attention to Call for Code and Code the Curve and Tech for Good. There's a lot of places where people organize events, and all it takes for you to make a difference in a girl's life is to let her know about it. Just share the news and encourage her and say, this is something I think you can do, or get together with some of your friends and you can do this. So, you know,
and if I can quickly jump in, I just want to say something I've discovered even over lockdown. I think it's become even more like prevalent, but we've realized how we can do all of this from the comfort of our own home. So we're all part of this bigger picture. I engage with 1.5K students and growing, all from my little office at home, you know, that just blows my mind. And I think it just shows what a small world it is and how we can really work together and be a big force.
You are absolutely right, Lella. And it's the other thing I want to add to that is you don't have to have a major social media following. Everybody knows a girl, whether it's your own daughter, your friend's daughter, everybody knows a girl. So that actually brings me to my next point. So let's pull that back up. All right, here we go. The next one. Parents influence girls' perception of tech. So, and I want to say not just parents, but also, you know, role models in their lives, you know, the godfather, the godmother. You think your daughter, your child is not listening to you, but they actually do. And the research found that the parents actually have a huge influence through all of the eye rolling, that child is listening and internalizing what you have to say. And the thing that came out recently that I just recently saw, I guess about 3 months ago, is that the research actually found when it comes to girls getting into tech, the fathers actually tend to have a bigger influence on whether or not a girl feels empowered to pursue this. So all of the men that are joining this session, this is not a women's thing. This is for you as well. You as a male role model, giving the thumbs up to a girl and saying, you got this, you can do this, has an even bigger impact in a lot of ways, making them feel empowered to step into this role that many think, you know, that girls may assume is only for men. So you can open that door, and I really encourage you to do that. But I want to say that it's not just about parents, right? You can adopt a girl, you can be a mentor, and I'll tell you a story. I actually brought my neighbor's son to Bring Your Child to Work Day at IBM because he was interested in technology and his parents were artists. And you could do that. You could bring a child to an event that you're going to. It doesn't have to be your own child. You can bring a college student. This is something that anybody can do. And another great idea, if you want to bite off something bigger, is you can host a hands-on coding workshop or a hackathon and invite the parents as well as teachers to come in and join. And I would love to see a father-daughter hackathon at some point. Maybe I'll host one myself, where the girls are learning alongside their fathers, and especially master the mainframe. How many dads know mainframe? I mean, maybe this audience is the wrong audience to say that to, but you know, at your local school, most of those parents don't know mainframe. And so the father and the daughters are learning at the same level, at the same time. And so I think that's really empowering, really, really empowering for a daughter to be teaching her father about these technologies as they learn it together. So Kaitlyn, you told me a story about how a family friend at a dinner party just started chatting with you and had that empowering enablement for you. Tell us that story.
Yeah, so at the time, like this was like the first time I met the guy. He was a good friend of like my mom and dad's, and they like, my mom knew his wife through work, so it was just sort of like like a work dinner party type thing. And my mom mentioned that I liked technology. So he immediately put together a little tech project that we could do just like on the spot. He's done it a few times even since then. He'll just like come up with an idea of something he wants to do, and then he'll just have like me and my sister do it with him, and it's always a blast. They don't always get finished though. They usually don't. But in this case, it was just like some basic like HTML stuff, and I think we followed it up by like making a little game emulator using a Raspberry Pi.
Oh, fun.
It may have been a different time. There's so many. I can't keep track of it all. But it was really cool because I didn't get to do like tons of like crazy cool tech stuff. Like this was kind of like out of my wheelhouse of stuff I would have been able to do at home. And he just like jumped in. He had just a bunch of like random computer parts and like Raspberry Pis and stuff on hand, like always at all times. So he just threw together a little project. We did it, and it was a blast. And that made me get like even more into technology than I already was. And it also really helped that my dad always encouraged me to pursue that kind of thing, partially because he respects just like computer science, and he knows it's a lot of work and that it's like very much necessary for like modern everything. Every modern system has a computer scientist behind it at some point.
Right.
Pretty much. And he also respects the amount of money they make. And
Nothing wrong with that.
He wants me to be able to live like a good and comfortable life, and I happen to enjoy it. So I just got a lot of encouragement from like family friends, from that one teacher who like got me to finish master the mainframe,
right?
Which like ended up being a really life-changing experience for me. It was pretty big, just a little bit. And
well,
overall,
you know what I love about this story, Kaitlyn, is that you had the support and influence of your parents who didn't know anything about tech, and you had the support of some random person, quite honestly, that just happened to be at your house for dinner, and taking the time to teach you a little something. So I think these are great examples for everybody on this call of the ways that you can influence your own children as they explore, and the ways you can influence other children that you encounter and young people anywhere, right? It could be a random dinner party. It could be at a school function. You know, there's just so many ways you can help these people on their path. So we have 15 minutes left and 3 more topics. So we're going to dive in. Here we go. Sharing my screen again. Number 5. And these kind of start to overlap a little bit, but we had a lot of points we wanted to make. So one of the interesting facts that we learned is that 78% of girls cannot name a single famous woman in technology, not one. And so this is something that you can help with, that especially a lot of the women on this call, you can be a tech mentor, so you can help them see that there are women in technology by being visible, by being present, by mentoring them. It could be as simple as a 30-minute exploratory. The men in the room, you can do an exploratory, and while you're doing that exploratory, help them see that there are women colleagues that you work with, right? Try to bring that there's women in the organization up. A 30-minute conversation is really not that hard for you to do, and anyone can do it. But also there's opportunities for women in tech to be speakers at events and to be helpers at events. And we're going to be launching in the Master of the Mainframe Slack, and I'll put it in the chat when I'm done sharing here in a second. In the MTM Slack, we're going to be launching a way for you to raise your hand and be a guest speaker or a volunteer to help at a codeathon that's using Master of the Mainframe. So we're sending all of our event organizers into the MTM Slack to find people like you. So I definitely encourage you. That's one way you can find opportunities to do that. And connect with me on LinkedIn, because I rope my LinkedIn connections into stuff all the time. It's good to be my friend on LinkedIn. It really is. You always have the option to say no. Lella, you have a variety of people that have been technical role mentors for you, and one of them was on one of the earlier sessions, Melissa Sassy, one of my good friends. Tell us a little bit about how the role that those mentors and those leaders, female leaders, influenced to you.
Yeah, so from a very young age, I had participated in lots of hackathons and events. I'd been like the 12-year-old sat in the back, and then there'd be the second oldest being around 21. So I did stand out, put it that way. And through that, I did manage to connect with so many amazing women in tech and beyond, you know, men as well. And they've all really just they built a bridge between what is industry and what like my skill set are, and it's played a really vital role in kind of making me feel like I do play a part in tech, I think, and they've kind of really helped me shape my career. So over lockdown, I actually had my exams cancelled, which was an experience and a half, and I really took the time to reignite my passion for technology. So I really explored up and coming webinars and things that have been run all over the internet, and through that I did connect with Melissa, and she in particular has been really useful just in the sense that she didn't just mentor me in tech, but she opened my eyes up to so many other areas, because I really did start to consider whether I was technical, in the sense that I wasn't going to study computer science in my next year at school, and I thought, well, am I closing doors and losing opportunities by doing that? But she really introduced me to Tech for Good, and through that doing the Student Hub and working on Tech for Good projects like startups and Code the Curve and Call for Code. It really just has kind of made me feel like, yeah, I can do that, and it's really helped me reshape and remodel my future roadmap, and it is always ongoing. There's so many twists and turns on that route, but it's been so useful to really have someone who I can say, hey, how does this look from another perspective that's not like a computer science teacher or a family member? So it's been absolutely incredible, but a real privilege too.
Oh, good. Well, you know what, Lella? We're going to go to number 6, which is your favorite topic. So we're coming back to you. Lella's very passionate about this topic, and I am too, because I've experienced this firsthand with my role in working with educators. They struggle to keep up with what's going on in the world of technology. It's really easy to make fun of schools that don't have technology in the curriculum and that teachers don't even know how to use a digital whiteboard. But you've got to have a little empathy for their job, where they're supposed to be focusing on being compliant with regulations and staying up to date on the latest methodologies for teaching in general, pedagogy, and to be able to keep up with tech. I mean, we're in this industry and we can't keep up with all of the changes that are going on. It's really, really hard to ask them to do that on top. So you in the industry have such an important role to play to help the educators understand what is going on in technology. And going back to this point that Lella just made about how everyone is going to have a job that, or it was Kaitlyn, everyone has a job that is going to use tech in some way, right? And not everyone in education, and definitely not all students, realize that technology is for everyone and that they all need to understand it. So you, with your knowledge and you're up to date and learning about fully homomorphic encryption and quantum computing, and you know, they're still trying to figure out what analytics is, right? And that's so 10 years ago. So you can bring this to them and help them. And really important is they don't have time to go and pick what's appropriate for their students' age. So you can read through we have a list of resources at the end. You can read through some of the activities at IBM and at code.org and some of these organizations, and you can pick out what you think is good and relevant and save them that time and serve as a mentor to the educators too. So Lella, go ahead. I promised you your soapbox time. Bring it on.
So what I would say here is just how important it is that we realize the boundary that there is between the school curriculum and industry. As you were saying, 90% of jobs are going to require digital skills in the future. So whether someone sees themselves as being a lawyer, as a doctor, whatever the role, they are going to need tech skills. And something I always go on about, and we've hosted webinars on the topic, is this thing of tech beyond the textbooks. I really don't understand. Well, actually, no. Industry and schools have tried to keep their curriculum up to date. I think in the UK in particular, they went from teaching ICT, which is like Office 365 and all that stuff, to teaching like the basics of Python. So I'll give them that. But by the time the latest textbook gets published, tech has already moved on. So we really need to look at how we can bring industry, who will be our future employers, into the classroom to skill up their future workforce, because there are so many opportunities out there. As you said, whether or not it's the school doing it themselves, I think maybe just allowing the schools to really project and announce such opportunities, that's just one small stepping stone of a way of doing it, because students are just so easily demotivated and don't really find it interesting to look at how a printer works in 10-step detail, you know? So instead, showing them opportunities beyond the textbooks and what really tech skills can bring, regardless of your career path, is exactly what needs to be done. And look at how you can use tech to teach, whether that's through digital textbooks or, you know, just making it more digitalized as a whole and really making tech cross-curricular. I know when I did my GCSE, and I could go on, but when I did my GCSE in French, there was such a push for students to do what they consider a modern foreign language. And something I remember, I'm not so strong at French, but I said to the teacher, look, can I do the modern language of the future, computer science and programming instead? I know it's a cliche, but I think there should be just as much pressure for students to study computer science or get some basic understanding of programming or just tech as a whole, really just so they can thrive in what is going to be a digital tomorrow.
Agreed. Boy, I couldn't have said it any better, but I want to invite Chloe to jump in on this one a little bit and talk about how important some of these industry partners, many of whom are members and active with SHARE, have been to what you're doing at Wolverhampton.
Yeah, so we've had a lot of support, fortunately, at our university from industry partners, and actually being able to have people from the industry come in and talk to us about what it actually means to work, not just generic sort of textbook stuff. We hosted events within the university, getting even younger people, so from secondary school, for example. We used the master mainframe system. We had IBM experts come in and sort of show them through what a mainframe is and all this new tech stuff, and see how it's actually useful and how it's used in the wider world. It's been really valuable experience that I think many students can benefit off, rather than just doing something for the purpose of an exam at the end of it. It seems less relevant, and I think that would demotivate them more than actually having something enjoyable and a better experience from it.
Right, and it makes it real, right? As opposed to theoretical, and it makes it personal because you're talking to people who actually know the technology. Well, that's great. I love what's going on at Wolverhampton, and that's not the only school that is engaging really, really well with the mainframe community. So anybody on this call that wants to engage with a university in your region, you just let me know and I will connect you to the right person in IBM that will help make that happen. Alrighty. We are running out of time, but we're gonna run over. They told me I could, so we're gonna do it. Let's go to number 7. Since most of this audience is in the United States, we're gonna use this US stat. Only 35% of US high schools offer any computer science. Not computer science is a required course, any offering at all. And this is a real challenge because the school has to follow mandates, and you cannot teach computer science unless you're certified as a computer science teacher. So, you know, there's a lot of requirements for what teachers in the US have to do. So it's not that they don't want to offer it. There are logistical problems that they're trying to overcome. And I think that this is something you all can help with. The first is to really listen to their local challenges and goals. It could be that they can't find a qualified teacher. Maybe there's a way we can help them. Maybe they don't have enough students to fill the class, right? There's a variety of issues. Maybe they can't afford the technology. A big thing you can do to help is make those connections for the school to local employers. A lot of times they won't listen to parents as much as they will a local employer, but I'll give you a hint. One of the groups of people, stakeholders that a school will listen to much more than you realize, and it's very influential, is a student. If you can get a student who stands up and says, I want to start a computer science club, the school will work really hard to enable that student. They love seeing student leadership, and they go out of their way to try to enable students. So if you partner with a student in the school, it will make it much, much more successful. But we have another tip. If you can't get any progress at the school, and I've done this myself, I gave up on the school and I went to the public library next door. And I've gone to, instead of going to a computer science club because I couldn't get a computer science club started, I went to the Girl Scouts and I ran a special series with Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts. Or you could even do it at a church if a church wants to sponsor a series of technical education, right? So there's lots and lots of options here to help solve this problem, and it's a really big problem. So Kaitlyn, I want to throw it to you this time because your school could not afford to have a computer science class in your school, and they came up with a unique solution. So tell us a little bit about how that worked.
Yeah, so with this is more of like, it's mostly like across the school district, but most of the high schools in my district, and yeah, same goes for like the middle schools and stuff, don't have their own computer science class. But my district, what they did do is they have like this career training center type things, like this, we can take concurrent enrollment and like career classes to kind of explore your options and to fulfill like CTE credits and like just various credits towards your high school diploma. And one of the classes there was a programming class, and I ended up taking it. So in order to pursue computer science and like do any like programming related classes and stuff in high school, I had to leave school early and drive to a separate building, like a separate campus. There was just this small little, it was just like this smaller building with a bunch of all different kinds of career classes, and I had to take programming there. And there was only the one programming teacher. I think there was like one other computer science teacher who had like a cybersecurity class, but I heard that class ended up getting cut, or at least was like cut in half with the amount of time they like actually had it. And it was kind of strange because then you'd end up with things like the law enforcement class, running through the halls, yelling, like doing their like little simulations of like arresting criminals and stuff while you're sitting there programming and like listening to the teacher's lectures and stuff. And it was kind of like a jarring thing because that's it was just a very, I guess, kind of like a unique thing.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I had that opportunity, but I really wish there was an option like in the school building itself, because it is impossible if you aren't at least like a junior or a sophomore to take that class. Sophomore, because you can take a bus there. Junior, it's easier just to drive.
Yeah. So,
like,
you know, what's really interesting about this is that I think everybody on this call thinks that every student should be required to take at least one computer science class, because it is so essential to every job in the future that you are able to use computers. And I argue it's about more than that. It's about not being taken advantage of because you don't understand technology. So it's really important for every citizen. And the last time I checked, and it's been a few months, there were only 2 states in the United States that required computer science for every student before they graduated. Only 2, Arkansas and Georgia. So if you're in a state that does not require computer science for every high school students before they graduate, yeah, go ahead, write your congressman. So we are out of time, but I want to make sure we get to the last point. And so it is number 8, share number 8. Many educators see themselves as not technical. So when you're working with those educators, you need to be empathetic to them and use a lot of these lessons that you've learned to help them feel empowered, help them feel like they can do it. They're afraid to try this stuff. So take the time to educate the educators. Don't dismiss them because they're 40 or 50 years old and they don't understand what analytics is. Try to be understanding of them. Take the time to educate them, and then that will impact many, many more. And the other thing is have an activity where the educator is a participant and you're not counting on them to actually be leading it. You're leading it, and bring volunteers to help you. So you're taking the burden off of them. So you tell them, we're going to host this event at your school, and all you have to do is sign out the room and invite your students. We'll take care of everything else. That is the best way to get in the door. So I want to make sure, because it's in our handout, that Lella has a chance to talk about the Stemettes organization. But I want to circle back before you do that really quick to something Chloe mentioned earlier, and that is the university hosting secondary school students. So it's not just you. You can work with and support an avid university student and use Master the Mainframe, use these hands-on activities we're going to point you to as a way for 20-year-olds to influence 18 and 17-year-olds who then can go and influence 13 and 14-year-olds and build future leaders as well as a broader understanding. So your efforts can snowball if you can teach them how to teach others. So Lella, talk a little bit about the Stemettes organization.
Yeah, so to briefly touch on that, for those people who haven't had, say, all the crazy experiences I've had with IBM and other organizations, something which has brought tech exposure to real-time tech a lot closer to some of my peers has been the Stemettes organization here in the UK. So it was founded by a group of young women who are passionate for STEM in general, and what they've done has just been absolutely incredible. Like over the past month with lockdown, they introduced something called called Stemettes to Sherpy Mentoring, I think it was called. And basically we had this virtual conferencing software where we were all sat on these little tables and we had to run across to each one and do like a speed date with a mentor who was in industry from all sorts of areas. And from that, it's enabled me to have bi-weekly meetings with my mentor, who is from a completely different area in tech, which I'd never have thought of myself. But what's been so special is that she's just as passionate as I am, and being a woman in STEM, I think it unites just anyone, regardless of like your group. Probably if you're like black girls in tech or whatever that may be, I think you all kind of have that driving force for change. And although she does have a slightly different career path to what I'd probably go down, it's been really interesting to each week do a different like soft skill development. So we've had like a booklet to work through where one week we looked at professional networking, elevator pitches and developing LinkedIn profiles. But I think opportunities like that, if a school just highlighted it and said, look, this is available online, rather than having to host it in their local school, if they just say this is available to girls globally, why didn't you take a look? I think that will make a real big difference, because they are just always expanding and looking for more and more girls to take part in it. So they did courses on cybersecurity and all sorts of different things. But I think it's just such a great way, an example of a really successful organisation who have really brought equity of access to tech for everyone, regardless of their kind of socioeconomic background. I know they have like the Girls Who Code one as well in the US, right?
Yep, Girls Who Code, and we have Black Girls Code. So there's lots of really great organizations to help. And so with that, in our remaining negative 24 minutes, I want to reiterate what we said at the beginning, and that our goal today was to empower you and to inspire you to actually do something. And so here's our tip: do your little bit of good where you are. It is those little bits of good put all together that overwhelm the world. Desmond Tutu, one of my heroes, this is a great bit of advice. If you just have a single conversation with a student, you are helping something, you are snowballing it. And please feel free to contact us. I gave the link to the Master the Mainframe Slack, and we're all in there, but we also are all in LinkedIn, and you can find, I think, most of us on Twitter. So please keep in touch if you want any advice, or if you plan to do something and you're looking for help or pointers. And Lella, we have a cheat sheet, right? Where did that go? I don't have that.
It's on its way, just put it that way. It's in progress.
We'll post it I'll post it in my LinkedIn, and when we share this replay with everybody, we'll post that.
Yeah. Hopefully we can see if Cher can share it with whoever registered.
That's a great idea. Cher can share it for us. All right. So thank you everyone for joining. I appreciate it. I hope the lack of questions means that we were really clear and helpful. And I want to say a big, huge thank you to my three panelists, Lella, Chloe, and Kaitlyn, for not just joining this and the two reschedules, but I want to thank you for sharing your personal stories, because it's really informative to those of us who are trying to help more girls be as successful as you are.
And thank you for the opportunity, because I think that we wouldn't have this opportunity to raise our voices without being elevated by organizations like IBM.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, I want to also thank all the attendees and our panelists and Misty for moderating today. All of the attendees, if you could please complete the short feedback that is on your screen. This helps us to continue to improve and build upon our webinar offerings. This webinar was recorded. We will have it available on the Share website shortly. And if you have any questions, you can always email webinars@share.org. So with that, I want to thank everyone and have a great day.